What's up, St. Louis? It's your host, Luke Farrell of the STL Bucket List Show. The STL Bucket List Show is driven by Bomarito Automotive Group. Bomarito is Missouri's #1 car dealership with over 20 locations, so I guarantee that there's one in your neighborhood. Since the 1970s, Bomarito has sold over 1 million cars, and John and the entire team made us feel completely comfortable when we picked up our new vehicle recently for the family. So I can't thank the Bomarito team enough for driving this episode forward, and enjoy the show.
Hey everybody, this is Leslie with Birch Tree Recovery. You just listened to our episode on STL Bucket List. Thanks so much for listening. Birch Tree Recovery is here for you if you're struggling with your mental health, if you're struggling with substance use or any other kind of behavior that you're wanting to modify. We're here to meet you where you are and help you along the way.
For 50 years, Bankhead and Firth Orthodontics has been proudly serving the vibrant St. Louis community. As a family-owned and operated practice since day one, the commitment to excellence and personalized care runs deep. They believe in giving back to the wonderful people of St. Louis who have entrusted them with their smiles. Step into the 5 locations across St. Louis with modern offices equipped with the latest orthodontic technology. Their 3 amazing doctors are dedicated to providing top-notch, innovative treatments tailored just for you. Join us in celebrating 50 years with Bankhead and Firth Orthodontics, where your family becomes a part of theirs. Schedule your free consultation today and let them help you achieve the confident, gorgeous smile that you deserve. Because in St. Louis, your smile is your legacy.
If you want to hear about St. Louis, tune into the Bucket List Show weekly. Hear what Marissa and Luke say. It drops every Wednesday. Got a dope new guest every single week. Buckle up for the ride. Who's it gonna be? Who's on the show today? They rep St. Louis. What to do in the loo on a late night, or maybe what to do on a date night. Yeah, Bucket List has you covered. They know what's going on. What's going on, they'll give you, hey, 18 different things to do, or 19 if you need one more to choose. Yeah, this city is a place we call home. A place we call home, yeah.
Hey guys, welcome back to the STL Bucket List Show. I am your host, Marissa Farrell.
And I am your other host, Luke Farrell, and we're back with episode 127 of the STL Bucket List Show. We're heading into the school year, so...
We don't talk about that.
But guys, I just can't thank you enough for continuing to listen to our show. I mean, we've been doing this. We haven't missed a week in 127 consecutive weeks. And it really is just a testament to consistency. When you consistently show up, you consistently do the right things. That's how you build a real brand. And without St. Louis, we wouldn't have this brand. So I can't thank you guys enough. Our incredible partners, our incredible listeners, but more or less my co-host, Marissa, for being here each and every week.
Well,
she's back now.
Now.
Off elongated maternity leave. So we have a very special guest in the studio today, a new podcast partner. Anytime we have a new podcast partner, we like to bring them in to, first of all, see what we do, just so that it's like this is a real thing. We're in a studio. And then also to educate our community on why we chose to partner with you guys, why you chose to partner with us. So we have Birch Tree Recovery in here, Leslie Davis with Birch Tree. First, tell them what you do there, and then I want to read a little something from the website and then have us go right into it.
Sure. I'm the Director of Clinical Services for us over at Birch Tree Recovery.
Nice. And Birch Tree Recovery, there's a little thing on your website that I keep going back to. I really like it. So wherever you are on your journey, Birch Tree Recovery can work alongside you to create a healthier life, establish self-connection, instill effective coping mechanisms, minimizing anxiety, depression, and further the path of your individual success in recovery.
Absolutely.
What does that mean to you?
Whew, what a mouthful. To simplistically put it, there is no perfect method. There is no perfect way. There is no perfect time. It's recognizing like this is a whole journey. This is a full life experience that people go through. So to say like, oh, just use this one technique, this one way for everybody is completely unrealistic. And we know research backs up that that's unrealistic as well. So we try to stick with research as much as possible instead of opinions and beliefs, which I'm sure we'll get into. That's a big problem in a lot of spaces in our world, but especially in treatment. So trying to keep beliefs and opinions out of it and just meeting people where they're at in the most humanistic way possible is what we try to do all the time.
Exactly. And I think that that's bringing like a different approach like we had talked about in the past. But I want to talk about the STL Bucket List partnership because we've been in talks for a while and introducing the Mental Health Minute powered by Birch Tree Recovery. We're super excited to talk to some of our guests. We talk to people, places, and events all over St. Louis. So when we bring people in, we get to talk about that. But like, what does this partnership mean to you guys? What are you most excited to see from it?
Well, you guys are fantastic. So
Thank
I'll point
you.
that out
Thank
first of
you.
all. Just the amount of love radiating off of both of you is so cool to
Thank
see.
you. That's so sweet.
And you guys are doing the right thing. Like
Yeah.
I can hear it, like even in your intro of like show up, do the right thing,
Yeah.
stuff will pay off. And that mirrors a lot of what we try to do at Birch Tree is like just do the ethical thing, do the
Mhm.
right thing, and good things will come.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
I can't wait to hear the stories from people that we talk to, because we talk to some of the, most accomplished entrepreneurs, artists from
a
all
lot
over
of
St.
people
Louis.
and mindfulness and mental health always appears in our episodes.
Yep.
I mean, it's
And
kind of
gratitude is another thing.
always.
Yeah.
So just being able to have that minute to really devote a second to really have listeners think and listen and focus on that, I think is really important.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the spice of life. Otherwise, you'll get
Yeah.
lost in the tornado.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I like
Spice of
that.
life.
So,
Yes.
first off, I want to learn a little bit more about Birch Tree. I know you kind of said some stuff about it, but you guys are a new organization.
Yes.
You're hitting the ground running. You're doing things different. You're based right here next to the studio. So, you're right here in the heart of the St. Louis area, in the metro area. So, give our listeners a little bit more info on the services that you guys offer, the outpatient stuff, and different things with addiction that you guys offer.
Yes, so we do addiction and mental health primary. We recently opened up a mental health primary branch, and all of our groups are co-occurring. So there is no silo to your diagnosis. We found that kind of just makes the stigma worse for everybody of like, well, I don't have a substance, so that's not my problem. Oh, I don't have PTSD, that's not my problem. Well, we're trying to eliminate all of that.
Mhm.
Everyone has mental health. Everyone gets hit by life. So
Yeah.
let's talk about the actual skills that help everybody, no matter what your diagnosis is.
Exactly.
So that was a good foundation for us of like,
so not to cut you
Yeah.
off, what are like just some of the basic steps there? Like something that
Yes.
like again, doesn't matter what you're struggling with, something that this is the foundation. What are those?
okay, it might be easiest.
You can break it down however you'd like
Yes,
to, or
yes.
simplify it.
Everything is complicated. So if you see me
Totally.
pause,
Yeah.
not
gotta
just
think
the
about
moment.
how to-
Yes.
Of
Sure.
course.
Yes. Trying to think about the quickest way to explain incredibly gray areas and complicated things.
Yeah.
So probably easiest to describe our levels of care first. So typically if someone goes to a private practice setting, that's going to be like a weekly individual once a week. That's not us. We're the more intense version of that, of like once a week individual therapy is not enough. We need more help when we need more intensive care.
Mhm.
Maybe we don't need to go to a hospital necessarily, but maybe you have been to a hospital and once a week after the hospital wasn't really helpful. So
Mhm.
we have IOP, which is intensive outpatient. That's probably the more typical level of care that you're going to see if you're someone who's not really in crisis
Mhm.
and you're still functioning day to day. PHP is our other one, which I'll get into afterwards, but it's about 9 hours of treatment a week. So you're going to come to group 3 times a week for a few hours, and then you're going to have an individual with your therapist. So it's pretty intensive.
Yeah.
It's not just once a week and then see you next time.
Mhm.
We're doing some work here to figure out what's going on.
Mhm.
And then PHP is even more intensive than that. So that's 25 hours of treatment a week.
Wow.
So that's 5 days a week for 5 hours. And like we feed you lunch. We know you're with us all day. We try to be mindful that you're taking in a
Yeah.
lot of information and you're processing a lot. So it's
Mhm.
heavy.
Yeah.
And that is for people that are not functioning. Like it is too hard to get out of bed. You are struggling at work. You are not functioning like you want to. That's really where PHP, which is partial hospitalization treatment, it's not a hospital. You're still going to be with us. It's still group therapy and individual sessions, but
Yeah.
you're in a more safe environment that's more therapeutic and you're not just in a hospital room.
Wow. That's amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
25 hours a week, and you guys do that all out of your location there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow, that's amazing. So, tell us about some of the team that you guys work with, because obviously this isn't possible without an amazing team. So, tell us about
Right.
some of the roles and who you guys have on staff there.
Yes, I am absolutely over the moon proud of the team that works for us. They are incredible counselors and incredible humans, first of all,
Mhm.
because if you're not a good human, it's going to translate into the
Yes.
therapy process.
That they'll read that. They'll read it and be like,
Yes.
you're not the person for me. Totally.
Yes. And one of the biggest things that we talk with our clients about is authenticity. So if our counselors really aren't being authentic, we can feel that in the room and it's going to show up in your client's work.
Yeah.
So I would say Andrew was our first full-time hire. He is incredibly talented. He loves doing couples work. He loves doing family sessions. He's trained in Gottman, existential therapy, harm reduction certified, and is always trying to learn more. He's incredibly talented in being able to truly meet people where they're at,
Mhm.
and really helped shape like our harm reduction philosophy. when it comes to Birch Tree. We also have Kelly. She is our other full-time therapist that's with us. She's an LCSW, incredibly talented, trained in EMDR, does really well with trauma therapies, has some background in ACT. Everyone does DBT skill work when they come to our facility because most of our counselors will do it. Tons of training. She's also going through you're good.
Our fans know that we have our baby in the studio by
it's
now.
okay.
It's a family thing over here. She heard family and then she screamed.
She's got opinions. That's good. Yes. So Kelly's also going through a training right now based out of Colorado and California and Oregon where they're doing things like working with psilocybin, working with DMT,
Okay. Yeah, I
working
heard
with
about that.
ketamine. Yes. So a lot more progressive style therapies, trying to get other therapeutic techniques involved, not necessarily legal yet totally in Missouri, but that's us, as we try to stay ahead of the curve. We try to stay what's happening with research, what are we seeing with these outcomes to help people, because that's the goal.
Exactly.
And then we have a bunch of other great PRN therapists. River is fantastic. She's been with us from the beginning. She runs group multiple times a week, and she is trained in psychodrama, which is a more newer kind of therapy, which is acting out a lot of the experiences that people go through, or specific emotions or specific parts of us. So very internal family systems language, very much looking at like that we are complicated and there are many feelings we're having at one time and we need to look at all of them. So those,
that's huge.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So Birch Tree, not to go on a tangent, but where is that name come from? Like, it's such a peaceful name, a birch tree.
Birch tree, right? Of peace.
So do you guys have a story behind that?
Of course, there's always a story. Of course. Our founders actually picked this name, and it went really well with what my executive director and I also philosophically and spiritually agree with. Like the birch tree is like the phoenix of the tree world. It goes through extreme circumstances. Even if it does get burned down for any reason, it will grow back. It's one of the most resilient trees out there. So it was just perfect.
So fitting. So fitting.
So
no
cool.
matter how burnt you get, you can come back and grow. I love it. Symbolic. Beautiful.
That's amazing. So what makes you guys different? Because I know that in our initial call, we had talked about some of those things and you've kind of like pointed out to some of those, but obviously you guys are so mission driven on what you're doing. So if you could touch on a couple points on what makes Birch Tree different.
Sure. Sure. This is going to keep happening of like, sure, just a couple things.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to say a mouthful of stuff.
Go for it.
So many things. So what you'll see a lot in treatment facilities is there's an emphasis on self-help, which is fine. And self-help has its place. What I tend to tell people is self-help is free. You can go do that on your own at any point. What you're going to get with us is clinical mental health counseling, which is with a licensed professional or provisionally licensed professional, or people that have other credentials like a CRADAC or something like that. You're getting actually studied therapeutic modalities with people using very specific therapeutic orientations. People went to school a long time to learn a lot of this stuff. This isn't just...
You guys are doing the work.
Yes. We're trying to do it as intentionally as possible is probably how I would describe Birch Tree's birth in general. Is just being really intentional about everything we're doing. From the beginning of like when they come into our building, the goal is for you to feel relaxed, not more anxious than you probably already are, because therapy is not comfortable
for everyone. Right.
Yeah, and the point is uncomfortable work.
Yeah, that's uncomfortable.
Exactly.
So that's a great point, because I think that, like you said, there's a lot of information on the internet. There's a lot of gurus on TikTok and Instagram. And, I think that it's one of those things with anything, it's who you listen to and where you take advice, and people that have been where you've been. And a lot of the people in your industry have been in situations where that's why they chose to do that work.
Yes.
I think that that's very interesting, but I want to hear about some of the trends, because it's 2024 now. There's obviously different trends going on in mental health.
Yes.
And as the internet becomes bigger, I talked to you guys briefly about her students and the epidemic with addictions to phones and different things like that. What are some of those trends? Can you touch on some of those, and what are you guys seeing?
And are you seeing that in like younger age groups too, like with social media being such an issue?
Yes, I'm seeing all kinds of trends in all types of generations. Statistically, older generations are typically struggling with alcohol more. it's becoming a more and more apparent gap between other generations and the boomer generation of like alcohol is really becoming a problem. You can put that on the cultural norms for whatever reason, but not understanding quite how alcohol can fit in your life. It doesn't mean you have to be with it, without it. Nothing is black and white when it comes to humans and brains. So finding a way to have a healthy relationship with that thing was not culturally what we did, right? It's still like that right now. It's a holiday, you drink. It's a weekend, you drink. You're socializing, you drink. So everything is alcohol heavy, which is fine in itself if you understand your relationship with that substance. And that's
Well
not for
said.
everybody.
Yeah.
Wow.
I feel like our generation is more cognizant of that a little bit. Like I'm noticing like a lot of people in our friend group are like pulling back from drinking in more social settings because we
Completely
are
quitting.
we're just like, why do we need to drink? Because like it's mocktail season, baby. Like
Yeah.
that's what we're here for. So anyway, just a thought.
No, we've
that I've
noticed that a
noticed.
lot, and even like with you, like since having the baby, like she hasn't really drank at
And
all.
like I
and-
haven't drank, and why do I need to? Like why? It's been fine without it. So anyway,
That's interesting. So substance abuse in general, you mentioned with boomers, but there's other substances that are affecting people of all ages. Are you guys seeing
Yes.
any trends in that? Like
Yes.
certain types of drugs or certain things that people are using?
Very much so. Thinking specific with substance use disorders, younger generations, there's a lot more uptake in cannabis,
okay.
which again, cannabis is neither good or bad. It's just understanding your relationship to that thing. So there's been an uptick of like people don't understand what brands are ethical. People don't understand how much is maybe too much right before bed. People don't understand what they're buying.
Right.
My hope is that they're getting some education in the dispensaries if that's where they're going. But
Exactly.
a lot of times that's not happening, right? Like they go in, they get their stuff, they leave, and not really looking at like, am I smoking a huge blunt right before bed? So that's probably going to wake your brain up more than put it to sleep, especially what type of cannabis that you chose to put in that blunt. And tobacco is going to wake you up and get you buzzing. And depending on whatever diagnosis you have, if you have anxiety, it's probably not the move. Maybe an edible is a better choice with lower dosage. So that's probably what we're seeing the most with younger generations is trying to figure out how to understand and use cannabis in a way that's still
And they're using nicotine, these jewel pods and stuff
the
like
jewel
that.
pods,
That
I've
was
seen
crazy.
less of that, but it's definitely still a thing.
Yeah.
So to your point, I mean, I know we can't talk on specific case studies, but I want to dive deep into the aha moment that you had in your career. So there's always the people and things that we've done in our life where we're like, oh, wow, like I'm really doing something that I love doing. And I'm sure you have one of those in your career. And if you could just pinpoint and maybe tell our listeners a little bit about like that moment where you're like, I'm really doing the work that I'm supposed to be doing right now. Do you have that specific moment?
As cheesy as it sounds, I think that's Birch Tree. I think that's Birch Tree for me of like things aligned perfectly in my career to put me at this point and to feel like when I was going through private practice life, I was also doing PhD work and then pretty much getting to the dissertation stage. I was like, I'm ready to make change on a bigger level. And then Birch Tree happened to exist right at that point. And it's okay, I'm ready to change. Change the way we look at treatment, change the way we look at substances, change the language around it. It's like not to call you out, but even how you said substance abuse, like applying abuse as part of this. So trying to be cognitive of like a full glossary of words that we just try to stay
that have
away
been
from.
in there for a long time that people use.
You'll see clean and dirty. You'll hear that all the time. Well, that implies purity, which doesn't exist, and it definitely doesn't exist with our blood or substances. So getting away from all of that, you use clinical terminology. It's easier to say alcoholic. I get it for pop culture, but in a clinical space that has no reason to show up. And the DSM is substance use disorder, alcohol use disorder. So trying to really get that stigma off of them from the beginning with our language is a big part of our program.
So you mentioned things that you did before. So I want to learn. We need to talk a little bit about you, Leslie, because we kind of went straight into all the nitty gritty, and I want to learn a little bit more about your career because you've been in other things and like kind of leading up to what led you here. So you mentioned like that aha moment, but before that, what other jobs have you worked? What other things have you done?
So many jobs. At one point, I had 3 jobs when I was in my master's program. Like the grind was the life.
Making it happen. I've been there.
Yep. My 20s were very much like keep moving, keep grinding. So I worked all over the place. I was a pitching instructor because I went to college for softball, so that made sense to just give some instructions and coach some kiddos.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to UMSL.
Okay. Yay, me too. Go
Yeah,
Titans.
I love UMSL. They're the best.
Go Tritons.
Go Titans.
Shout out.
Yes.
Yes. So did a bunch of different jobs when I was doing that. Worked at Starbucks. Still one of the most challenging jobs I've ever had to this day.
I believe it.
Oh, yeah,
All the
sure.
orders, you're like, you want what? You don't want that? I
What's
can
the
imagine.
acronym?
Sure.
There's a lot.
Yeah, I'm
yes,
sure.
yes, that was challenging. And then I
Mhm.
ended up in hospital systems, and I think that's where my career really got specific.
Yeah.
So I worked in emergency rooms, and then I worked on the mental health side of emergency rooms, doing a lot of assessments for people in crisis.
You see a lot.
A lot.
You see a lot in
Yes.
emergency rooms. I mean, anything and everything walks in that door, and you're like, okay.
Yeah. If you need a little perspective, go hang out in an ER for a minute.
Yeah.
Totally.
Oh yeah.
Yes, and just see like the struggle and the human experience
Sure.
and like the good and the bad and everything in between. So I recognized that was not a long-term path for me.
Right.
Crisis work is intense.
Yeah.
So then I was like, okay, well, I noticed that a lot of people that come to emergency rooms, they weren't really getting support for substance use. They get support for the mental health crisis of like they're suicidal or
Yeah.
homicidal or in a psychotic break, full-blown psychosis. They weren't really getting help for substance. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, well, that's weird. Let me check this out.
Exactly.
That's how I ended up kind of in the substance world. I worked for a couple different places here that all have different names 3 times over
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah.
Companies buying out companies.
Mm-hmm.
Get there and recognize, okay, everyone's traumatized.
Mm-hmm.
Every client I worked with had really complex PTSD symptoms, if not full-blown PTSD. Something that's not in the DSM is CPTSD because of these things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's less about like really big traumatic life events and more of like death by 1,000 cuts.
Mhm.
So your parent maybe was like really hard on you, but they were hard on you every day.
Mhm.
And so I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. Enough days of that in a row, you will
Totally.
develop trauma symptoms.
Oh,
There's no way around it.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that with most, if not all of my clients, like even if they didn't have full PTSD, they were having CPTSD symptoms.
Mhm.
So got trained in EMDR, which is a very specific trauma therapy that we also offer at Birch Tree. I do it, and as well as Kelly does it,
Mm-hmm.
because it's just so efficient in helping chill out these really intense memories that haunt us, as well as nightmares. It's really good for that too. So okay, everyone's traumatized. These people are incredibly underserved, and I'm not understanding why outside of the moral, ethical model that our culture tries to push on people who struggle with substance use. So, okay, let me provide some education. I can do that. So I tried to give talks to St. Charles County, DWI, and drug court systems. So people that get sent to SATOP, people that are at risk of going to prison for DUIs. And there were some people that were receptive. Definitely not everyone was receptive to like, oh, something's wrong with them.
Uh-huh. Right.
Just
Right.
trying to get them to look at this like just change
As a
your
person,
question.
like
yes.
look at
Mm-hmm.
as a person.
Yes, this
You're
is a
just
human.
giving
Yeah.
them tools on like what things to ask certain people. You know?
Yes. And like if you're working with someone who's on probation, like recognize how high their anxiety is simply just existing.
Yes.
One wrong move and they're going to prison or back to prison depending on their circumstance, and who knows what else they have going on in their life.
Yeah.
So I just kept trying to get them to change the perspective to like, instead of what's wrong with you, what happened to you. Like
Mhm.
that's a big one that I hope all counselors are also kind of taking into their backpack of like, this
What have
is
you been through?
yes,
Mhm.
what happened,
Yeah.
not what's wrong with you.
Mhm.
If you know Tecovas, you know that they make some of the best and most comfortable Western boots around. But what you might not know is that Tecovas has a store right here in St. Louis at Plaza Frontneck. Stop into their store and you'll find the finest handmade cowboy boots, jeans, belts, cowboy hats, and even apparel for both men and women. While you shop, enjoy complimentary drinks, boot shines, custom hat and boot branding, and more. Come visit the Tecovas store at Plaza Frontneck and let them help you find your new favorite pair of boots or your first pair of boots ever. Tecovas, don't go gently. Because one mistake, like you said, and like that has ripple effects, and it's so hard to dig yourself out of that. You know?
Learned behaviors
Yeah.
and again just traumatic experiences that stay with you, and again like not maybe having your toolbox to like learn how to not make certain choices. Like
Mhm.
people aren't always given the tools, so just being aware of what led you here, or
Yeah.
why are you not wired
And it can
this way,
happen.
but you know what I'm trying
And
to
it
Yes.
can
say.
happen to anyone: successful people,
Yeah.
unsuccessful people,
Absolutely.
very happy people,
Yep.
very unhappy people. It's just it's all. So on your guys' website, I see personalized treatment is a big thing for you
Yes.
guys, and I think that there's no template for any of this. And you go through school and you learn these things and you take these tests, but everything's personalized for that one individual patient that you're in the room or client that you're in the room with at
Yeah.
that time. So tell us about the personalized, because that's a lot to take in. You meet someone, you give them personalized plans, and then you guys lay out a treatment plan from there.
Yes, we try to collaborate as much as possible with the treatment plan because that's something you'll see a lot too of like people telling you what to do. We're going to work with you to figure out what's best for you because, again, the humanistic approach is what you need to do. You know what's best for you. You might just need a little help figuring out how to get there or how to access it. So, yes, you go through a pretty intensive biopsych assessment with me or one of my therapists on top of a pre-admission assessment before that to make sure that you're an appropriate fit or you don't need a higher level of care
Okay.
or if you need detox or if you need to go to the hospital.
Mhm.
So we do quite a bit of screening up front.
Mhm.
And there's no way around that other than we really need to get as much information about you
Yeah.
as possible so we can help you.
Yeah, exactly.
We try to make it as least anxiety provoking as
Mhm.
possible, but sometimes there's no way around it. Therapy is
Mhm.
scary, especially intensive treatment. So
Mhm.
you get a pretty thorough assessment right out the gate.
Yeah.
And then we use something called Track 9, which is our assessments. So it's from your phone or you can do it from a computer, but we're looking at tons of factors of what's happening. And then we add specifics also to your chart. So your automatic like gratitude, we talked about that earlier. That's going to be a resilience factor for everyone who comes in with mental health stuff. That's something we're looking at and kind of measuring weekly with everybody on their self-report. Because the more the gratitude and the hopefulness and life satisfaction goes up, the more we know that things are getting okay.
Mhm.
And
And
mental
they fill
health,
that out continually.
yes,
Right, and
Okay.
they're
every week.
self-tracking
Yes.
too, which is great. Mm-hmm.
And mental health is not tangible, right? Like
Right.
this is a very slow, very abstract kind of thing that
Mhm.
we're talking about. So a lot of times it's hard to see your progress, whereas we can show you your exact Track 9 scores and how you've kind of trended.
Which is great for like if I was a patient and I'm seeing my own personal growth, that just pushes you to strive even further. So that's wonderful.
Do you ever hear
Yeah.
the term like mental fitness? Is that something that like, because I read a lot of like books and like entrepreneur books, and they're
Yeah,
always like, you
I
gotta
was
get your
gonna ask,
mental
is this-
fitness up. You gotta be like this. Like, is that like, what does that even mean? Is that tied?
Clinical, do
Yeah.
you use that?
So yes
Is that a
and no.
myth? Mental, like, can I work it out?
So yes, you definitely can focus on brain health.
Yeah.
Focusing on brain health is a very real
Yeah.
thing. Go outside, eat nutritiously dense foods. It's
Mhm.
okay to have other types of foods, even if it's sugar.
Mhm.
What's your relationship with that food? Do
Yeah.
you have any kind of spiritual connection or practice? You don't have to, but like
Mhm.
existentially, how you doing?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So there's tons of things that we can do to take care of our brain. Like exercise is really helpful.
Mhm.
You are not going to run a marathon and get rid of your depression.
Mhm.
That's not how this works.
Right.
But yes, like we need to move our bodies. We need to have the sun on our skin. We need to socialize with safe people. Like there are tons of things that we can do to take care of our brain health.
Mhm.
But mental fitness is not quite a clinical term. No.
Thank you for
There you go.
knocking that point
All
out.
good.
So lasting recovery is built on a strong foundation. You guys have these foundational pieces and stuff that you guys do from individualized therapy, group therapy, evidence-based practices, and stuff like that. Those are all different, and those change. But does everybody go through, or go through like a plan and then they complete it, or is it there's ongoing? I mean, it's
Right.
different for everyone, I know, but like if the people that are listening to this, we have hundreds of thousands of followers and people that we send out on our email blast, and when they go to reach out to you guys, like they just reach out and you guys walk them through that basically.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And no pressure, right?
Right.
Because that's a lot of pressure of like, okay, I've got this treatment plan.
Exactly.
That's super thorough. We don't expect you can't A+ therapy,
Mhm.
nor can you fail
And
therapy.
there's not like a timeline.
No.
Like it's just
We'll give you a basis of like typically IOP is 6 to 8 weeks and we'll reevaluate. Typically PHP can be 2 weeks to 6 weeks. We're just kind of evaluating as we go, because we don't want to make any decisions that are just based off of one mood or
Right.
one day.
Right.
And life's going to keep happening.
It's gonna fluctuate
Yeah.
every day. Totally.
That's interesting. I think that that's the biggest thing is like taking the step to ask for it. And you see all these other services now that do virtual and all these different things. Like they're trying to meet people where they're at,
Yeah.
where they're at. But I think the continued growth of what you guys preach is like, your continued growth after that. So aligning them with resources after care or after what you guys do. So I definitely think it's incredible the work that you're doing. Super excited about this. But I want to hear some myths. I know a lot of people are like these myths and different things like that. So what are, in your guys' industry, everybody has misconceptions about it. Like they said, oh, you're a teacher, so you do this, or oh, you're like this, or they stereotype different things like that. So what are some of the myths of your industry that you can debunk for us today?
Oh man, there's so many. Oh, there's so many. I would say the first one is that everyone is equally susceptible to substance misuse and substance use disorders. That's statistically not true. It's people who are marginalized. It's people in the LGBTQ population. It's people who struggle financially. It's people who grew up in really intensive households. It's usually the marginalized that are struggling with substance use disorder disproportionately to people who are wealthy and white and having the American dream, whatever that is anymore.
Right.
But yeah, because they tend to say like, oh, addiction has no preference. Yes, it does. It really does. And it's then pointing to the systemic issues that are showing up for people who struggle with substances. This is more complicated, and this is not an ethical or moral decision that they're making. This is like, I don't know what to do because my brain is not on my side, and neither is my life.
Okay. Wow.
So
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah, that's really, so what about and those are passed down through generation, you think? Like, when somebody said, oh, my dad had this issue, so I have an addictive personality. Like people say that, they're like, oh, I can't do that because like my grandpa had an addictive personality. Do you see that? And the people in
Like,
that
is there truth in that, you mean?
Yes and no. It's the forever question in psychology, right? Is this nature? Is this nurture? How much is this? And we can't agree on anything. What I will tell you is yes, it's pointing to it's all of it, but what we leave out a lot is modeling. One of the biggest things kiddos pick up on is modeled behavior. You can say the perfect thing all the time. You can show up with that smile 100%, but they see what you are modeling. So you can build them up with body confidence as much as you want and tell them how perfect they are. If they see you body checking, if they see you on the scale, if they see you anxious about what to wear, that's what they're going to do. That's what they internalize is what you model for them.
Absolutely.
That's a good point. And that could be the same with anything, with
everything.
drinking, with,
Kids are just so receptive and they're watching. They're just always watching. And people, I mean, I used to work in early childhood, so I learned that, and it's as simple as if a kid is maybe like hitting another child, like, well, maybe they saw their brother do that too. It's just like, it's so simple. It's as simple as that. It's a learned behavior.
Yep.
So.
Can you touch on like an amazing case study? We don't have to say any names, but I think that a lot of people need to see other people do things before they do it. So if I see my friend get in really good shape, then I'm like, oh, then I can do that. I can reach for that. And I think that, like you mentioned, it's learned behavior. You have to see people do things. So just hearing some of the case studies, I mean, like you said, obviously, without using any names, but like some of these people that have been in certain situations that's why you do what you do. So if you can touch on like a specific case study that could inspire some of the people that are listening.
I really go back to really early in my career. I worked with someone with incredibly complex trauma, really dysfunctional family systems that they grew up in. Could not have more odds against them, really. Like if you go down the list, they probably had the unfortunate box checked. And I worked with this person for years, and I watched this person pull themselves out of extreme struggles with some of the toughest substances you can name. Like, you name the substance, it was part of this. It was very much a polysubstance situation. It wasn't like, oh, it's just some drinking is an issue. No, it was everything. And this person did. Like, they worked through so much trauma with EMDR. They worked on revamping their social circle. They set boundaries with their family. They're really mindful of, like, okay, how do I feel and what do I want with my life? Because a lot of that was decided for them before they were even conscious of it. And they did. They got married and had a brand new career and have a house and are just living their life. And this person was one of, like, I
And
can't
you're
believe.
still able to see that.
Yeah.
Stuff.
And I can't believe they didn't die and they're living better than most.
A healthy life now and happier life.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Yeah, that's definitely inspiring for people. So if anyone was interested in connecting with you guys, what would that process look like? Like, if
Give
any
us
of
a
our-
call.
Okay.
Just give us a call.
Okay.
You can go to our website, birchtreerecovery.com. If phone calls aren't your thing, that's a whole other generational thing.
I know. Mom, can you make my dentist appointment? Like, you're 22.
Yep. You can go through our website and you can type it out if you're a texter over a phone call.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we will call you, but we will call you. You don't have to call us if that makes you nervous.
Yeah.
Just go through our website and we will reach out to you.
Cool. Perfect.
That's
Birch
cool.
Tree.com?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. birchtreerecovery.com. You can just click the Get Started button, fill it out. You guys accept most insurance plans, so I think that's another thing is like walking people through that process and definitely helping through that. But it is the St. Louis Bucket List show, so we always like to talk about some of our favorite things about St. Louis to wrap things up in the thing. So let's just say I'm going to paint a picture in your head, and then you got family or friends coming in town to St. Louis. They get here on a Friday. What are some of the things that you're doing with your family and friends that you're checking off their bucket list? Like some of the best things about St. Louis, because that's why we built this whole thing, is just off highlighting the people, places, and events that make our city so special.
Totally. And St. Louis is definitely its own thing. Like that's the first off of like, it's hard to like describe this. You really have to see it for yourself. But I'm a big foodie, so we're going to Sado. We're going to Sado.
Okay, when we going? Like, let's
Whenever
go.
we
We went to Sado.
That
We
was
went
like
to
our
Sado.
first date
She
night.
couldn't eat sushi for 9 months, obviously, because you can't eat sushi when you have a baby in you. The day, it was like the week after we went on our first date night to Sado, we ate so much Nigerian sashimi. So
And
good.
I was like, I'm still hungry. Like, I could like keep eating. It's so good.
Oh yeah, so light,
Sado's
so
great.
fresh.
Yeah.
One of my favorite places. Chef Nick, I will follow him wherever he goes.
Yes.
Every
Well, he's the end
restaurant.
of the earth, babe. Yep.
Yeah, Nick's up east.
So good.
He is. So we're gonna
Good
go to
choice.
dinner. The Foundry is super cool. Just walking around and checking out stuff, even if you don't like participate in anything.
Right.
It's a cool way to be around people that doesn't feel maybe as intense as like Mardi Gras.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe
Mardi
not.
Gras not on your bucket list.
No.
Not anymore.
I don't do Mardi Gras or any of those things anymore.
We're past that too.
The Foundry's great for people that are picky eaters, because then because like some of your friends and family are not going to want to go to Sado.
Yep.
It's too intimidating.
Yes.
You don't even know what's on the menu. It's very expensive.
Yes.
You go to the
You
Foundry.
can go get a pizza. You can get toasted raz. You
Yep.
can get a special waffle.
Yep.
You know. Yeah.
So it's great to like post up, everybody get their own food, and then we meet back at the
Yes,
table.
exactly.
No excuses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everyone's participating.
Yeah.
Yes. I think those would be the big ones. I mean, you can't beat like Shakespeare in the Park.
Yeah.
That's one of the most fun things to
Did
do.
you go this year?
I missed it this
Me too.
year.
I'm so I teach Shakespeare. I'm a high school English
Amazing.
teacher,
Yeah.
and we didn't get to go this year. But
Yeah, we've been every year. It was actually
Every
a
year.
big deal when I didn't get us tickets this year.
It's all right. Next year.
That's one of the things. I think one of the things about St. Louis is, and that could go back to your work, is like getting out into some of these events that are free.
Free.
A lot of these events, go walk. I mean, you just walked around the zoo in Forest Park, just like
Even Friday, we did the movie on Art Hill,
which was free.
Free event.
So there's so many things to do in St. Louis with kids, with families, and different things like that. But yeah, we're big foodies too. The whole reason we started the whole page was we were anonymous and we would just post things that we ate. And we didn't tell anybody who we were.
Yep.
And then it just, people started following us because they're like, oh, where are they going to eat next? We don't get to go out as much anymore, but when we do, we definitely
Takeout.
go to a very,
Still good.
Yeah, still good. But no, Leslie, I appreciate you for making the time, and I'm super excited about this partnership. I can't wait to see the content that we create, the lives that hopefully we change from this. I'm really, really excited to kind of look back at this episode as the kickoff of something really special. But just to leave our followers, our fans, our people that are listening,
Listeners.
just give us, a quick, 30, 60 second tidbit on Birch Tree and what you guys are here to help, just so that they can feel that when they call you. So
Yes, without sounding like a salesperson.
yeah.
If you're looking for somewhere that you feel safe to actually process what is underneath whatever behavior or whatever diagnosis you're struggling with, we are the place for you. We recognize that this is hard. Our therapists have all been there, quite literally. I hire people in recovery. Like, we are no stranger to the human struggle.
Yeah.
And we're just trying to make it to where you can get to wherever you're going to go, whatever that looks like for you. We're not trying to keep you forever. We're just trying to help you for a little bit. And then we hope you have a great rest of your life.
Yeah. That's
beautiful.
amazing. Well said. Mic drop. There we go. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you for tuning in to the STL Bucket List Show. BirchTreeRecovery.com.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Today they rep St. Louis, yeah. They rep St. Louis. They rep St. Louis.